Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Nnorom, and today I want to talk a little bit about how you can apply the PRECEDE model in your program design or program planning efforts. Okay, I have put together this short video with examples so you can easily apply it to whatever it is that you're designing, whatever program or intervention it is you're designing. And if you like the video, don't hesitate to hit the like button and of course share it. Okay, so there are basically four phases of the PRECEDE model. First of all, what is even the PRECEDE model? The PRECEDE model is one part of the model which is popularly known as the PRECEDE-PROCEED model. It's a model that most people in social work or public health use as a framework to guide how they design programs that bring about change in communities and countries in across the globe, broadly speaking. And there are basically four phases of this model. There are a bunch of resources out there for it, but I just thought to shoot this video because I was hoping that it will help people to understand it a little better than other resources do, or it will help you all to apply it, to find it a lot more easier to apply it. Okay, so there are four phases of this model. The first phase is to identify the ultimate desired result. I mean, come to think of it, everyone talks about working from the end in mind, and designing a program is not an exception. You don't want to jump into a program and randomly do things that you don't know what change is going to bring about. So the first phase in designing a solid program is to think about the end. What do you intend to achieve? And we'll go a little deeper shortly. The second phase is identifying and setting priorities. There are a bunch of reasons why problems exist, and I bet you cannot solve all of them. So what do? Set priorities. You have to pick a few that you want to focus on, and that's what we're going to be talking about in phase 2 in a minute. The third phase is identifying factors that predispose people, enable people, or reinforce people's actions as far as moving forward and changing their behavior is concerned. And then the fourth phase is identifying administrative and policy factors that influence what you can implement and what you cannot. And we'll talk about that shortly, even in more detail shortly. Let's talk a little deeper about the first phase, which is determining a desired result. We work from the end in mind. What is a desired result? It is a long-term change you want to see happen as a result of your program or intervention. Another way to put it is this: it is what you hope to accomplish by doing what you want to do. It could also be put like this: it's the change you want to see happen because of what you do, what you are doing, or what you plan to do. Now, a desired result is not what you are doing or what you plan to do. It's not your intervention. That's not your desired results. Neither is it the how. It's not your strategy for accomplishing change. I've seen a lot of students in my years of teaching in higher education always confuse this. They often think the desired result is what they plan to do or what they are doing or how they plan to do it. So if you're mistaking this, I want you to sit back now and consider a desired result. Look at it again. Is it written like an accomplishment, or is it written like an activity or something that you are doing, or an intervention, or rather a strategy? This is an example you can use to compare with yours. The desired results, and this is an example for skin cancer, right? Assuming the issue is skin cancer. The desired result is a reduction in skin cancer incidence among Caucasian women aged 45 years and above. That's one example. Another example could be the desired result is an increase in smoking cessation among teenage boys in Minneapolis. Note the language: reduction, increase, right? Note the target population: Caucasian women aged 45 and above. You don't want to have a desired result that covers everybody or that's not specific, because then you would not be able to measure it, right? So take this example, look at your desired results and see if it's missing in any um, in any of these factors. And be sure, again, it is not what you are doing. It's not your interventions, and it is not your strategy. Next, phase two, which is prioritizing. Come to think of it, assuming you got a $1 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they told you they wanted you to go to community X, perhaps, let's say, Georgia County in where? Maryland. And they said, okay, we are noticing that there is an increase in smoking prevalence among teenagers in that county. We want you to take this $1 million and go in there and try to address this problem. What are you going to do? The first thing you want to do, I guess, is to go into that place, get a few people, teenagers, especially gatekeepers, all forms of stakeholders in the state, sit together with them and have a conversation around what factors may be contributing to skin cancer. Sorry, did I say skin cancer? Smoking. Smoking prevalence in the county. Okay, you don't just jump in and say, okay, I think that there is the prevalence of smoking in this county is super high, so I'm just going to go in there and start programming doing all kinds of programs or interventions. No, you want to sit with them first. And what are you going to be sitting there with them to do? You want to sit with them to identify what are some issues that is making smoking prevalence super high in the county, right? So there are two things you want to prioritize. You want to prioritize among the health or community issues, right? So in this case, I'm not saying you have to go into the community and begin to start asking them what are the problems you all face. Of course, at a different level, you can do that. If, for example, you have some money and you don't know what to do with it and you just want to address the pressing issue in this community, that's what you want to do. You go in there and ask them, what are the pressing issues you all face? But if you have a budget that is tied to a particular issue, say smoking, you want to go into the community to find out from them what are some issues that are affecting smoking, that is making more young people smoke. That's the first thing you want to do. And when you sit with them and they put together all this list of problems, for example, they tell you, oh, the parents are not doing their job. Oh, the schools are not doing their job. Oh, these kids don't even know that smoking is bad. Oh, they list all these issues. What do you want to do? You have just $1 million. You can't solve all the problems. So you want to prioritize. Which of these am I going to focus on? That's the first thing you want to do in phase two. And then the second thing you want to do in phase two of this model is to also prioritize what factors will create the changes related to the problem. So if, for example, you discovered in the first issue for prioritization that one of the reasons why people smoke, or in the example of my slide, I used skin cancer. So one of the reasons why women have higher prevalence of skin cancer is that they are exposed to the sunlight for a long period of time. They have too much exposure, or perhaps they don't even realize that they have a risk for skin cancer. Perhaps those are some of the examples that your community highlighted and they want to prioritize. Then the next thing is, what are some factors that will create the changes for that would help reduce people's exposure to sunlight and will help them have a higher perception of risk. Okay, so again, for phase two, you're prioritizing two things. First, you're prioritizing the issues you want to focus on, and then you're prioritizing the factors that will create change or address those issues that you've prioritized to focus on. Okay, now let's move to, which is identifying the predisposing, enabling, and reinforcing factors. Okay, I know that there's this slide is a little more texty than I would love it to, but okay, we'll manage it. So what are predisposing factors? Predisposing factors are simply intellectual or emotional givens that tend to make people more or less likely to adopt a behavior, whether they are helpful behaviors or risky behaviors. Okay, Now, examples of those could be their level of knowledge, it could be their attitude, it could be their belief system, it could be their values. For example, if you live in a community that have very strong values against um, um, let's say violence, you would find that they will be less likely to apply certain types of disciplinary measures on their children, right? So they'll probably be like, we don't hit kids, we don't spank kids, we don't do all those types of things, right? It's their values, right? So those are examples of predisposing factors. Enabling factors are those internal or external conditions that that are directly related to the issues that help people adopt or maintain a certain behavior, whether they're healthy again or unhealthy. Examples of those types of enabling factors rather are things like availability of a service or accessibility of a service, um, laws, policies that support or mitigate that behavior, right? So for example, there are times regarding smoking, we know that in this country there are laws that kind of puts a lot of taxes on people that sell tobacco products or produce tobacco products, right? Those are some form of enabling factors, or you know what I mean. So anyways, I'll just go forward because of time. And then reinforcing factors are refer to people and community attitudes that support or make people more likely to behave in a certain way. And this usually comes in forms of family, friends, church, media, things like that. These are the things that make us feel encouraged to behave in a way or not to behave in a certain way, right? So, for example, if our parents' approval or approval of our friends or our peers or what's trending in social media, things like that help us, encourage us to act in a certain way or not to act in a certain way, right? So, to help you identify the predisposing, enabling, and reinforcing factors in your own program plan or design, answer this question. And I'm going to use this example for the issue of skin cancer, which I've been going through since we started this presentation. And that is, what factors predispose people to reduce their exposure to sunlight? So put your own factor, the factor you prioritized in the previous slides, put it in there in the sentence. A second example is, what factors enable people to reduce their exposure to sunlight? What factors reinforce people's effort to reduce their exposure to sunlight? Remember, we are not asking the predisposing, enabling, and reinforcing factors for the problem, which is skin cancer. I want you to take note of that because I see students make this mistake all the time. They are thinking about predisposing, reinforcing, and enabling factors related to the problem and not to the factors, to the environmental and behavioral factors that they had identified and prioritized in step 2. This is very important. If you don't get this right, you're probably going to not get it right for the rest of the whole plan, right? So let's move on. Last phase is identifying administrative, regulation, and policy issues that can influence the implementation of the program or intervention. Administrative issues could include organizational structures, procedures, culture, availability of resources necessary for an intervention. And policy and regulatory issues usually have to do with the rules and restrictions, both internal and external, that could affect the implementation of your program. Now, the first one in the phase 3, remember we talked about enabling factors. For that, we also talked a little bit about laws and policies. In that case, we were looking at laws and policies that affect people's behavior, people's decision to behave in a certain way or not to behave in a certain way, or to adopt a lifestyle or not to adopt a lifestyle. In phase 4, we are looking at policy and administrative issues that could affect implementation of your program, right? So this is very important that you make this distinction. Otherwise, you probably get it twisted and get confused when we enter the proceed side of the proceed model. That's all I have for now. And if you have any questions, shoot me a line, drop a line here. Um, and of course, again, if you enjoy this presentation, hit the like button. I love to get feedback. So because this is pretty new to me, and I just want to hear from you. I want to hear that you enjoyed it, it made a difference, it helped you with your coursework. I mean, I just want to hear that. So shoot me a line. And of course, if it didn't help you, of course, tell me it didn't help you. I can take that. I can live with that. So, okay, bye for now. Okay, bye.